Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Meet the Candidates. I'm your host, Jonathan Grabowski. We are in spring 2021 local election season, and we're going through all the contested races. And so joining me here today on the show is a candidate running for Marshfield School Committee, Ashleigh MacKinnon. Ashleigh, thanks for joining us.
Of course, thank you for having me.
So excited to have you here today. You're someone who's new to Meet the Candidates. Your first time running for something. So we're going to talk about, who you are and why you're running and some things that are going on. So to kick off first, for those that are watching, who is Ashleigh MacKinnon?
Well, I am a wife and a mom. I'm also a daughter and a sister. I'm a stay-at-home mom, the cheerleading coach for Marshfield High School varsity, and an active member in the Marshfield community.
Cool. So talking about your community involvement, you just talked about you're the cheerleading coach at Marshfield High School?
Yes. So I've been in that position for 2 years. I absolutely love it. It's a great way to interact with the students. I have a huge passion for coaching, a huge passion for cheerleading. But along with that, I have done I've been actively involved with the Cops for Kids with Cancer fundraisers that they've had. And then a new fundraiser this year that they did was to benefit Danny's Room in honor of Danny Sheehan, who we all know and love here in Marshfield.
Absolutely.
I also volunteer at the VFW on Fridays for the Veterans Food Drive, and I was the organizer for the big Back the Blue rally in Marshfield this past July.
Excellent. So let's talk about why you're here today. So you've decided to run for school committee.
Yes.
Why school committee? Why the seat? Why now?
I have a first grader.
Okay.
And so when she got into the school system, it made me take a look at who makes the decisions. How does new curriculum come in? Who has a say? And just in overall, I wanted an understanding. So I started to look into it, but more importantly, COVID-19. And it made me take a look at government, both on the local and national level, in depth. And I wanted to pay attention and know who was making the decisions surrounding getting our kids back to school. And knowing that there was 2 seats up for re-election, I did a lot of research, and in speaking to a lot of people around the town, I think that Marshfield is ready for a change. And so I figured I have a vested interest. I have a first grader, like I said, so we're going to be in the Marshfield schools for a long time. And I just really want to continue to make Marshfield schools the best that they can be.
So one of the things you had on your Facebook page, and I'll quote from it, that pushed you into running was the stunting of the social and emotional growth of children. Now, for those of us that are watching that may not have children and don't experience that, talk about that.
So for one, speaking on behalf of my daughter specifically, super happy, outgoing kid, never had any anxiety issues, never had separation anxiety, was never shy when she met new kids. And throughout the past year, being isolated at home, especially with me because my husband continued to work throughout the pandemic, when things started to open back up, when we would start to gather with friends, if there was another family joining us, for an outing at the beach, let's just say, and there was a new kid that my daughter didn't know, she became completely introverted. She was very shy. She was anxious. And it got to a point where anytime we would be going to the beach or meeting up with friends, her first question would be, "Are you sure there's not going to be anybody I don't know?" And that's not her. And I think that a lot of kids felt that way. They went from having 5 days a week in school with kids, after school activities, weekend fun, to nothing. My daughter is the only living child that I have, and so it was literally her and I. And when things, like I said, started to open back up, even for her separation anxiety, I would love that I could go to the grocery store by myself. That was like my time.
Your free time.
But even if she stayed at home with my husband, her father, she would throw a tantrum and she would have a meltdown because she was afraid of being separated from me because we hadn't been separated for so long. So to me, that it's a huge issue. And I think that along with everything that the kids learn in school educationally, there's so much from a social and an emotional standpoint that they learn that was completely shut off to them.
Wow, that's interesting. That's great hearing that from a parent, that
Yeah.
what's going on. So a little Civics 101 that we like to do
Sure.
with people. What's the role of the school committee?
So from my perspective and my understanding from what I've read, the three key points of the school committee are to hire and evaluate the superintendent for the district, to approve and maintain the budget for the schools, and to also implement procedures and policies to guide the goals of the education within the school system.
So in your mind, what's the current state of the schools in Marshfield?
I think that the schools are great.
Okay.
I mean, I hear some of like the curriculum and stuff that goes on with the high school kids, from coaching. I hear what goes on in the middle school from family and friends, and then what goes on in the elementary schools. We moved to Marshfield 4.5 years ago specifically for the schools. And as of now, I have no complaints.
So as someone that's running for school committee, you've obviously observed the current school committee.
Yes.
What's something that they're doing well, and what's something that you think they need to improve upon?
So specific to this past year, I think the school committee has done a decent job at advocating for the kids and the parents in getting them back into the classroom. I think one of the biggest things that needs improvement is communication between parents, taxpayers, students, and the school committee. I think that there could be better ways to communicate.
Right. We'll actually go into that a little more in a second here, but if you're elected, what's something that you want to work on?
So specifically, is one of the things is the communication. You know, I think it's great that we have these school committee meetings, that they're open to the town, that they allow for public comment. However, I would like to see more of an informal open forum where it's just the school committee and parents and taxpayers. I know that in the past year, everything has had to be done remotely, virtually, but we're starting to move past that, right? We're starting to get to a place where we can have in-person meetings. And so I would really like to see the committee have an open mic night, so to speak, you know, where parents and taxpayers can come and they can say what they're loving, what they would like improved upon, because while you can send an email, a lot of the tone in an email can get lost. And I think it's very important to visually see someone's emotions, but also hear it through their voice.
Right, absolutely. So on your Facebook page, which is fantastic, by the way,
Thank you.
you talk about 3 objectives if elected.
Yes.
Let's go through them.
Sure.
So the first is get kids back in school full-time by September 2021. How do you want to do this? What's the plan?
You know, seeing that this past September, and a little bit before that, when schools were starting to make their plans, the governor and DESE gave the districts, they said, you guys are going to decide. And I think that what we're seeing now is that kind of came back to bite them a little bit, seeing that now they're forcing the districts to get back. So my goal would be to ensure, right? So we're seeing now that it's safe to be in school. There's ways to do it. And hopefully with more vaccinations, we'll be looking at something different in the fall. What I would hate to see is for us to backtrack. I would like to see the ball to keep rolling, because even now, Marshfield schools are still not back full time. And they need to be back full time. Full days, nothing cut short, you know, I mean, that would be my goal.
Okay. So another thing you talked about, and you've kind of touched this on already, is transparency between the school committee and the taxpayer. You know, going deeper in that, what are the issues? Like, where do you see where there's not transparency?
I don't really see it as an issue. I think that more openness. More openness. And like I was just saying, one of the things that I would like to see are these open town hall, open forum type options. You know, it's very easy for parents and the school committee. You know, something pops into your head, you blast off an email. And I know that some of the school committees have full-time jobs and they have to come together to be one voice. And so it takes time to do that. And I think that having the open forums, while there may not be a concrete, immediate answer, it's a better way than having the email communications as their only option.
And the third one was put control in the hands of the school committee and the taxpayers and not teachers' unions.
Yes.
So if you could expand on that as to why the union has the control and how you would put an end to that.
So first and foremost, I want to say, because I've gotten a lot of backlash about this.
This is your time to...
Yeah, and so I would just like to say that I am in no way anti-teacher. I am very pro-teacher. I give teachers the utmost respect, and I'm not speaking about teachers.
Right.
But because I've heard from several teachers, specifically in Marshfield, that highly disagree with what their union has been pushing this whole time. They've wanted to be back. They felt that it was safe to be back, and yet they were held back from doing that. And they're held back from being able to speak about it and speak out against the union. And I just feel that if parents and taxpayers and the school committee can come up with a plan, then yes, we need to work simultaneously and we need to have a good working relationship with the teachers union. But a lot of what I've seen this past year, both on the local level and the state level, is that decisions were being made not based on anything scientific, but more from a personal belief. And I felt that we saw that as recent as 2 weeks ago at the school committee, where our own Marshfield union president was still saying that we're rushing to get kids back and still pushing for it to not happen.
Okay. So as an elected member of the school committee, how are you going to, kind of take that on? Like, where it's, we have to look at the science, not just the personal preference of the union.
Well, I think we have more concrete data now surrounding COVID-19, specifically COVID-19, right? And so I think that it would be beneficial to sit down and have these conversations between the union and the school committee and say, this is what science has proven about this, and now these are the decisions that we can make based on that. And we have to take all personal feelings out of it, right? I mean, everyone feels different about this. Everyone has their own opinions. But when it comes to viruses, there needs to be scientific data that we're following.
Great. So a question I'm asking all the candidates this year, it's about the educational experience.
Yes.
And like many of us, I have friends and family who are educators. And the question is, do you think we should give local districts / teachers more control over what's taught in the classroom? And do we really need all these state and federal mandates and guidelines? Because you always hear teachers talking about we have to teach to a test, or there's an unfunded mandate we have to follow, and there's a lot of frustration in that at times.
Yeah, and I mean, as someone that went to college to be a teacher, I follow that stuff closely.
Yeah.
Specific, MCAS, for example. I graduated high school, luckily, within 3 years of the MCAS being mandated. But I think that, yes, there are certain topics, certain lessons that should be learned and should be taught. How they're taught and whether they're taught specifically to a test, I don't necessarily agree with. Not every kid is going to go to college. Not every child is going to graduate high school for multiple reasons. And you can have a straight A student that tests poorly. So why should the entire curriculum be just pushing towards these tests? There's other ways to do it. And I think that while following within certain guidelines that the state issues and mandates, I think that the teachers should have some, they should have an overall, and then within that be able to personalize it to their own teaching style.
Interesting. So we're getting to the tail end here.
Yeah.
So we always try to end with some fun questions
for
people. So what's an Ashley McKinnon fun fact?
So this is my go-to fun fact.
Okay.
I was on and was the winner of The Price is Right. I won the showcase. Yes.
No way.
I did. Yep. Spun the big wheel and everything. Yes.
That might be the best fun fact I've heard in my multiple years of doing Meet the Candidates. That might be the best one.
Yeah.
So if we were to take your phone or mobile device, what music would we find on it?
It's funny, when I was thinking about what music was on my phone, wide variety.
Okay.
I mean, I have Broadway tunes, I've got country, I have old stuff, 80s, 70s, new stuff. I like it all. Okay. There's really not a lot that I don't like.
Okay. So if people want to find out more about you, where can they go?
They can go to my campaign Facebook page as far as me running for school committee. My personal Facebook page is rather private, but I am an open book. I love talking to people. I know things are kind of weird right now, but I am totally fine if people see me in the supermarket and approach me and ask me questions.
Great. All right. So last but certainly not least,
Yes.
why are you the best candidate for the position?
So like I said earlier, I do have a first grader, and I've worked with the high school kids. So I really have a vested interest in ensuring that children in Marshfield who attend the public schools get the best education that they can. I also feel that I would bring a fresh set of ideas, a fresh set of eyes to everything. I think within a lot of different positions, both on the political side and within business, I think it's great to kind of rotate every so often. I worked for Procter & Gamble, and one of their biggest things is they rotate their employees through different positions because you don't want to get stale. And after a while, you're looking at the same, situations and the same problems with the same set of eyes. So I think that I would bring fresh ideas.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Yes,
I wish
thank
you
you
the
so
best
much.
of luck during this fun election season.
Thank you.
And that's all the time we have for Meet the Candidates. Until next time, make it a great day.